When it comes to optimizing e-commerce stores, you basically have a tool belt. You have your hammer, you have your screwdriver, you have your nails, you have everything that you could think of in that tool belt. And generally, you can have a little bit of an overwhelm of all the different options. Now, the definition of prioritization is that not all things are equally important, so you'd have to rank these different opportunities that you have. And generally, people are usually trying to pigeonhole CRO and then have their own favorite tools that they have used in the past and try to use that tool again, whether it fits the problem or not. So here, the key point of this video is to be able to determine whether user testing is a good tool for you to use right now, whether you should invest on it or not. If you're not familiar with the channel yet, I'm Samuel Larsen. I'm the founder of CROgurus.com. Done dozens of user tests for our clients over the years, and we know a lot about this subject, when to use it, when not to use it. So I'm going to share some of that insight in this video. But before I do that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and that will keep me super motivated to do these very course-like videos for you that I'm sure you will benefit from. And these come from insights of not only running an e-commerce store myself, but being able to see 24 stores at any given time from insights and what they're doing, how they're performing, and what is working for them. So it's really the latest and the sharpest when it comes to knowledge. Now, generally, when it comes to user testing, we haven't found user testing to be super useful for these kinds of more established and predictable brands. So mostly we found that to be a little bit of a long way to a solution that we would otherwise come to anyway. However, there are so-called special situations where user testing can be an absolute goldmine. So here I would say it's actually very polarized whether user testing is a good solution or not. However, in these kind of cases, it has been great. So if a user generally is something that is unlike you. So for example, if you're a young person running a store and you are running that for an older audience, you don't really understand how bad they might be with technology or how they might view these different elements differently. So generally we found this to be really, really good for stores with older audiences because the founders tend to be more tech savvy, etc. Second scenario, your users will have emotional reactions or reasons or any kind of differences in their behavior that you cannot quite predict. So here you think that they're going to shop one way or they're going to react to this thing one way, but then they go and do something completely else, or they state something on that user test that then ends up being very, very insightful for you. So this is something where you can get a lot of value from. Third thing is when you are not quite sure what level of explanation you need to get the point across. So say you have a long and technical landing page. So are people actually understanding this or not? Are you explaining it too complicated or not complicated enough? And that can be very useful in understanding then how to better craft your messages, where people are getting confused, where they may not understand the wording or different things of how that is laid out on the page. Now, this all goes back to the tool belt analogy. If you have all these tools, can you solve some of the problems with the tools? And most often the answer is yes. You have a lot of options for tools. You have probably a lot of problems. You can solve some of these with those problems. So you wouldn't have to take the most expensive and clunkiest tool often to solve the problem. And we found that generally user testing can be both quite expensive and quite clunky because you have to recruit the audience, you have to run it, you have to analyze it. So there's a lot of points here. However, if you want to know like these insights beyond the standards, this can be very good. So say you want to know where your people are navigating. You probably should use Google Analytics as opposed to user testing. If you want to know where they're clicking, use heat mapping as opposed to user testing, because that will give you more sample. If you want to know how they are describing your product, check your reviews, it will be there. Or say you want to understand how to how they are using the site. You can also just check your visitor recordings, see if they are using some element that you just launched. So this is not necessarily the answer, because many of those answers are already there with the other methods. And that means that you might be overcomplicating a simple problem, and often it sounds better than it is, but there are, of course, problems with it, like mentioned, like difficult to recruit your exact target audience. Recruiting is often costly, running the test is not cheap, and it can take a long time to analyze, and this analysis is then time away from something else. So there's an opportunity cost to that. And then almost every tool can be useful somewhere, but also completely useless somewhere else. So don't think of user testing as the tool to beat all tools. You cannot just use a hammer as a screwdriver, and that doesn't really make a hammer a bad tool. Just giving the hammer to a baby doesn't make a hammer the wrong tool. So you do need the right tools for the right problems at the right time and the right people to use them. And that is where you might benefit from our services. So at CROcourse.com, we help 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs mostly to get the most out of their e-commerce traffic. So definitely check that out if you are curious about our coaching and consulting services. There's a ton of free videos on this channel, so make sure to subscribe, check them out, and most major Shopify news content will be here as well. So you will have up-to-date information on what's going on in the small e-commerce merchant world. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.